He was betrayed by his closest allies in his party and marked as a traitor, but he returns back 20 years later as the strongest hero killer. Zell was one of the 14 lances of the Empire who were the heroes that fought and protected the country, but things quickly go south when the Emperor sends them on a deadly weapon. Out of the 14 heroes, 3 die in the journey, while 7 of them run for their life against the strongest enemies, but Zell and 3 of his friends were not cowards and bravely fought against these unbeatable odds, even winning the battle for their country. While they were on their way back through some thick jungles, they were ambushed by the 7 heroes who ran away, and Zell alongside his 3 tired friends were quickly outmatched. The 7 heroes killed Zell's friends while slashing him across the eye as well, but he somehow survives. The 7 lances are later known as the 7 heroes, while Zell and his friends are called the 4 lances of betrayal, as the 7 heroes announce that Zell and his friends ran away from the enemy. 20 years later, the capital city is well guarded by the monastery to prevent any of the peasants pass through. Every single day, several people who try to enter the border illegally are hanged and killed publicly, and this day was no different as the chief monk Raz hangs 4 peasants before ordering their death. Soon he hears some noise coming from behind and finds out that one of his guards have found another illegal immigrant who's just a little girl. Raz, however, is the ancestor of Trump and has no sympathy for immigrants as he orders her death as well, but thankfully, Zell appears behind her, claiming that she is his sister as he tries to walk away with her. Raz isn't fooled so easily though and claims that now both of them will be executed. Before Zell could do anything though, a tall man with blue hair appears behind them and grabs both of them up, pretending to be a relative as he apologizes to Raz and bribes him with some gold coins. This strategy works as Raz lets them leave while the blue-haired man tells them that they can't enter the borders so easily without any planning. He claims that he himself has paid a lot of money to the smugglers and has planned this extensively so they should stay out of the way and make no trouble. He looks at the girl named Pipi and asks why the hell does she won't enter the borders, while she sadly replies that there is nothing left for her back in her village where everything was destroyed. Suddenly, Zell pricks his ears as he hears people coming, so he picks Pipi up and yeets her into the stream below before telling the blue-haired man to get his weapon ready. The man was confused, but soon 13 guards emerge from behind, completely surrounding them as they ask for even more money. Zell realizes that the monastery is just a front, as only people who donate a lot of money are given permission to cross the border. Soon one of the guards decides to attack, but without any hesitation, Zell splits him in half with just a single slash of his sword. This really shocks the blue-haired man since he doesn't know that Zell is one of the former heroes, and as more guards attack him, Zell makes quick work of them as he slashes through all of them effortlessly. Once the guards were dead, he throws them all into the stream below, while the blue-haired man looks at him impressed and asks for his help. He introduces himself as Weed and promises to smuggle him and Pipi inside the borders as well. That evening, all 3 of them get transported through the stream in a small boat, which takes them to a shady tavern. Zell starts drinking like my alcoholic uncle, but soon Wide directs him to have a magic sword with him. He realizes that the situation might quickly get out of control and tells Weed and the others to stay back, while Raz explains that this man was also a smuggler before, but now he works for them. The tall man then picks up his sword once again when Zell notices a fairy tied to the handle screaming in pain, which was creating those magical attacks. The man swings his sword, creating an aerial slash, but Zell bravely intercepts the attack and slashes it in 2, surprising both Raz and his hired killer. Zell starts crying like a little bitch after that, screaming at them to stop using the sword, which confuses White and Altea, but people also notices that the fairy seems to be in extreme pain whenever the magical attacks are used. Raz laughs at Zell and tells the man to finish the job, but the man sheaths his sword back, claiming that he was paid to make sure they weren't able to reach the ship, and now they are too late to catch the ship, which means his job is done. Raz immediately begs him to stay and offers even more money to incapacitate Zell completely, so the man agrees and takes out his sword once again, attacking Zell with all his might, causing the cave to collapse. Zell drops down to a lower level of the cave where he gets up injured to find Raz standing, who claims that he knows Zell's race gets energy from the moon, but at this level of the cave he can't see the moon anymore, which means that he is done for. Immediately, a bunch of guards emerge with weapons and surround him completely before attacking him together. Zell quickly gets back to his senses and dodges the attacks effortlessly, before landing a sword slash at one of the guards, who barely manages to block it. Zell seems impressed and realizes that these guards are definitely strong, while the guards get scared by Zell's incredible strength. Raz tells them to attack again, but this time Zell quickly dodges and lands ahead of them, forcing Raz to run. Zell chases after him while the guards follow him, but before they could attack, Zell stabs his sword in the ground, causing his surrounding area to burn with a purple fire, which immediately melts all the guards into a mess of melted metal and burnt body parts. Raz is too shocked to even speak and asks how did Zell know about a trap that even he was unaware of, but Zell calmly replies that he has visited this place many times in the past. He throws him through the next door and walks in where he finds another high priest sitting near a statue. Zell calmly bypasses him and goes near the statue while the priest screams at him to back off, since even the 7 heroes are not allowed to come here, as this is the resting place of Ergnak, the servant of the heroes who sacrificed himself to protect the city by creating a magic circle, after the 4 lances of betrayal betrayed the kingdom and were killed by the 7 heroes. Zell laughs at that as he starts talking quietly to the statue of Ergnak, claiming that a great man like him is being called a servant of the heroes today. He remembers the time just before the 14 heroes were about to leave on their last expedition, but Zell went with Ergnak to the underground caves to make sure that the city was properly defended, while the other 13 heroes went ahead into the forest to face the enemy. Tears fall down Zell's eye as he tells the statue of Ergnak that the man who he thought was his best friend was laughing the most when Zell and 3 other friends of his were being hacked to pieces after the ambush. He screamed the tears for Glenn the Merciful, who is so saintly that he would even forgive a person who tried to kill him. This completely breaks Zell as he realizes that Glenn and the others have already achieved what they wanted to get. After killing his friends and almost killing him, they have amassed so much respect and fame that they are the ones basically running the entire country. He stands there in the rain all alone and with a heavy heart, starts moving into the forest when suddenly Daenerys Targaryen herself swoops down on a dragon before picking him up and flying into the sky. Zell submits himself to his fate as Dany takes out a weird-looking sword and was about to stab him when Weed rear ends her with his airship. Unfortunately, though, the airship was made by Boeing, so it crashed immediately, but it was enough to save Zell's life for a while. Dany gets up once again and takes her sword out as she angrily moves towards a broken Zell, but before she could kill him, Peepee jumps in the middle, telling Dany to leave the man alone. Dany angrily tells her to move out of the way if she wants to live, but Peepee stands her ground. To her surprise, this absolute psychopath swings her sword at the little girl, almost killing her. Peepee falls to the ground and was about to be shish kebab when Weed calls Dany a princess. For once, he was not being homophobic, as it turns out that Dany was actually a princess of the same clan as him, dressed as a soldier. She screams at Wyatt to stay back as this white-haired pipsqueak took her brother's life. Wyatt is shocked by this, while Dany immediately tries to stab Zell through Peepee. Zell, however, gets up in a trance and saves Peepee while getting stabbed in the leg. Before Dany could even respond, Zell gets in her face with his dagger and breaks her helmet before putting the blade to her throat. Dany is shocked and pisses herself as she collapses on the floor defeated, while Zell falls to the ground unconscious. Weed quickly takes all of them to a small refugee camp near the city so that Zell could recover, but Dany wouldn't hear of it as she claims that he killed her brother Krat, the leader of the clan, which means that he needs to die, but Wyatt stops her, claiming that her brother was his leader as well, and he knows that Krat wouldn't want her to go on a pointless revenge streak. Zell overhears all this and gets up before throwing his sword at her and telling her to kill him. But all he gets is a jaw-breaking punch from Weed, who tells him to get a hold of himself as he can't back out of a quest so easily. He then turns towards the dragon and tells her to chill out as well, since he thinks Zell can help them find her older sister who went to a neighboring kingdom to negotiate for peace, but was kidnapped on the way. Zell tells him that he is weak and can't do anything, but after a small pep talk, he agrees to help Weed find the girl. A couple days pass by and Zell still seems depressed when Peepee runs up to him and claims that she found some people from the same race as her, so she would stay with them and set up a village. Before he could reply though, Zell grabs his sword as he feels a strong presence, but Peepee calms him down, claiming that it's just the Centurion who is a good guy and has been helping her. Weed overhears the noise, so he comes out of the tent when his eyes go wide as he remembers that this bald mofo was one of the guys who abducted the princess of his clan. He immediately throws his ring towards Baldy, who quickly grabs it, claiming that he is very demure and mindful, and would never do anything like that. Dany and Wyatt are completely trapped by the zombies who are ready to eat them out, but soon Dany remembers that she is the dragon and calls her stupid dragon, who saves them once again. Dany then nukes the zombies before flying away to safety with Wyatt. They soon return back to the camp where they find Fargo kicking the shit out of poor Peepee. Somehow, even after all this noise, Zeffy is still fast asleep. Fargo laughs at her pathetic attempt to save the boy before using his dark magic to create a monster out of Zeffy's dead parents. By the time Zeffy wakes up, he gets knocked out once again on the ground. Fargo then turns towards Peepee and was about to kill her, but Zell arrives just in time, once again blocking the attack easily. He looks at the monstrosity that Fargo had become, but he already expected it since he was the second in command to the evil hero Landgrave. Zell quickly uses his own magic, which creates a bunch of tentacles out of his ass with swords, which helps him to make quick work of the zombie before turning towards Fargo. Fargo is beyond shocked to see this, as he has no idea how can a boy be so powerful. Zell, however, doesn't skip a beat and soon chops off Fargo's arms as well, but during the commotion, the entire camp finally wakes up and, looking at the horrifying scene, immediately assume that Zell had gone berserk and killed Zeffy's family before hurting Fargo as well, who tried saving them. They run at him with sticks and stones, while Zell wonders whether he should just kill them and be done with it. But thankfully, the dragon arrives in time and rescues him away from all this bullshit. Later that morning, Pee-Pee tries to make the camp leaders understand that they got it all wrong, but obviously they refuse to believe the words of a stupid little girl. Meanwhile, Danny apologizes to Zell for trying to kill him and claims that she wants to help him in his quest as well. Soon after, they depart on the dragon's back straight towards Landgrave's castle to corner him and get information about Sharon, but Landgrave seems to have alerted his guards and they have formed a mini army surrounding the castle. The moment they are spotted in the dark starry sky, the Dragon Brigade immediately launches into motion, chasing after Zell and his party, while the archers get ready to take potshots at him. As if this wasn't enough, the guards decide to call in the big guns, and soon a huge artillery machine emerges from the castle. Wheat is shocked to see that, but Zell looks at the machine with nostalgia as he remembers the time when he and Landgrave were young and were tasked to create this magic weapon from scratch. At that time, the Empire was on the brink of ruin because of enemy attacks, and this weapon was their last line of defense. Landgrave was the chief architect of the weapon, while Zell, the strongest swordsman in the country, was supposed to protect this place from enemy raids. Back in the present, the Dragon Brigade starts chasing them directly into the artillery's line of fire, while the archers shoot relentlessly at them. Wag gets confused since Zell is not fighting back, but it's hard for the little hero to strike back as all these soldiers used to be his trusted comrade once who fought alongside him. He tries to find an opening since he doesn't want to kill any of these innocent soldiers who are just following orders, but he needs to do something if he wants to come alive out of this situation. He takes out his magic swords and gets ready for a fight when the artillery cannon finally charges up and fires a massive blast directly at them. But to everyone's surprise, Zell decides to ignore the other two losers and focuses all of his tentacles towards Zell. Thankfully, Zell manages to evade the attacks once again, but Fargo finds an opening and disarms Zell before stabbing him in the arm. Fargo was about to finish the job when the Centurion throws the special dagger with the Landgrave crest towards Zell. He catches it easily, and to Fargo's horror, he takes out the dagger and jumps towards the monster before stabbing him in the head, ending his story then and there. Zell gets up once again and without another word tells Weed and Danny to follow him to the next room while they leave the Centurion to cry over the dead Fargo. Soon they enter into the inner vault where the shrine is located, and they spot Landgrave standing there with the masked scientists while Sharon the princess is tied to an altar, while some weird tentacles suck the life force out of her. Zell starts doing what he does best, which is slashing anyone who comes near him, while the scientists tremble with fear. Landgrave, however, still doesn't seem too worried as he tells them to continue their work, but soon Weed and Danny also enter the chamber and immediately head towards Sharon. They kill the remaining scientists and free Sharon off the altar where she lays barely alive. Landgrave gets furious and shouts at them that he is the hero who saved the kingdom and every one of them from the evil hands of the enemy empire, and they should kiss his feet for that, instead of fighting against him. But this only makes Zell sadder, as he wonders whether there was ever a time when Landgrave used to be a noble warrior. Landgrave still doesn't recognize Zell and wonders why this kid is looking at him with such pity, but before he could understand who he was, Zell attacks him with a swift slash. Landgrave, however, is much faster than he looks as he dodges the attacks with some monkey moves and lands back on the ground. Zell tries to attack once again, but Landgrave blocks his strike with his own sword and pushes him back. He laughs at Zell, claiming that he is not strong enough to face him, while Zell curses the fact that he can't see the moon right now. This time, Landgrave goes on the offensive and tries to attack Zell, who dodges the strike before blocking a strong kick as well. Landgrave immediately throws some daggers, which Zell sidesteps, but Landgrave pushes through and keeps forcing Zell to back up with a barrage of attacks. Landgrave realizes that he needs to do something scummy, so he secretly takes out another dagger and manages to slash Zell across the back. Before he could celebrate though, Landgrave realizes that even he got slashed in the process. Angry at this disrespect, Landgrave throws caution to the wind and attacks Zell head-on, but this time Zell takes the upper hand and slashes him across the back. He knows that Landgrave charges in headfirst whenever he gets angry, so he provokes him even more, which ends up working as Landgrave goes all in to land a hit, only to get slashes across his body multiple times. This turns into an all-out bloodbath as both Zell and Landgrave attack each other again and again without any breaks, when suddenly Landgrave realizes that these attacks seem familiar to him. He backs off and asks from where did he learn these moves, but as soon as Zell takes his stance once again, Landgrave is forced to remember that he is one of the heroes who they killed in order to save themselves. Zell takes advantage of this confusion and uses Landgrave's shock against him as he lands a special attack, stabbing Landgrave odds 20 years ago with his fellow soldiers and heroes, but was betrayed. Suddenly, he overhears the procession of Landgrave's funeral, arriving at this very location, which fills him with dread and anger, as this place is sacred for him, and is now going to be ruined. But he controls himself and backs off while the soldiers vow to take revenge on the traitors who killed their hero. He looks back at his party and tells them that they should all leave him now, as he is an enemy of the entire kingdom who will be hunted every single day of his life. But still, he is not going to stop and kill all the remaining 6 heroes. That night, they all get a troubled sleep as they wonder what to do next, but Altea, Dany, and Peepee all decide to stay with Zell for better or for worse, while Weed decides to head back so he can take Sharon to safety and protect her. The entire kingdom seems to be on high alert since the king called a meeting of all the remaining 6 heroes and told them to be on the lookout for this hero killer who murdered Landgrave. One of the heroes, named Barrister, gets a bit too nervous since he realizes that his territory is very close to Landgrave's and the traitor will probably enter his area next. He immediately tightens the security and orders an all-out manhunt to find the traitor, but unlike Landgrave's soldier, these soldiers are ruthless bandits who use this manhunt as an excuse to pillage and loot the villages in the area, pretending to search for Zell. While they were looting one such village, Zell decides to take action and walks up right in the open. The soldiers get confused at first, not thinking that this child could be of any importance, but one of the soldiers recognizes the white hair and the scared eye. They all attack Zell at once, but he makes quick work of them in a single slash before moving ahead. While he was dealing with these soldiers in the villages, Altea and the girls were sent to a tavern where they were acting as performers to gain as much information about this territory as possible. Peepee doesn't really like being a performer, but her dance with Dany is the talk of the town right now, and everyone wants to see them. One such night, while some actors were acting out a play about Zell and how he treacherously killed Landgrave, when some of the soldiers entered the tavern and pushed them away. They told the actors to piss off as they are here to see the girls dance, but before the soldier could hurt one of the actors, Dany immediately jumps into motion and blocks his strike. Unfortunately for her, the soldier's sword is much stronger and cuts through her wooden staff, leaving her unarmed, but before the soldier could attack, one of the men from the audience named Feast grabs him from behind before throwing him away. He claims that these actors are doing their best to show a story, and that everyone should respect that, but the soldiers think otherwise and try to attack him, only to get their arms and legs broken. Soon the man leaves the tavern while Zell was standing outside amongst the crowds. He realizes that the man is one of the strongest swordsmen in the country and is currently working under Glenn, so he decides that this is not the right moment to go in and hides. A couple days pass by after that when one day 4 knights enter Peepee's room to search for the hero killer. Peepee is shocked as one of the men with glasses has a special spirit which can detect demi-humans. The spirit smells Peepee for a bit like a narc dog before backing off, while Peepee is beyond scared as she wonders how she can tell the others about this new development. Elsaria is surprised to know that the traitor has friends, but this triggers Dany, who screams at Elsaria to stop calling him a traitor since he did the right thing by killing Landgrave. She claims that Elsaria has no idea that she is working for the most deranged monsters on Earth, while Zell is the real hero who she is willing to die fighting for. With that, she jumps towards Elsaria with her swords, but her teammates immediately throw chains at her. Thankfully, Zell deflects the chains while Dany clashes with Elsaria again and again, while Zell keeps getting attacked by her teammates. Soon it turns out into an all-out deathmatch as Zell fights for his life with his small daggers while Dany tries to keep up with Elsaria. Unfortunately, though, they are outnumbered and the nerd from Elsaria's party uses fire magic to blast her away. Dany, however, is not weak and gets up once again to fight, while Zell screams at her to back off since they can't fight here. Because of her thoughtless fighting style, Zell is unable to focus on the enemies and is constantly distracted by her. The opponents take advantage of this, and one of them throws a knife at her, stabbing her in the back. Dany falls to the ground in pain, but thankfully Zell catches her and jumps down the building into the boat waiting below. Altea immediately starts rowing, and somehow they manage to evade the 4 knights into their hideout. Altea and Peepee start treating Dany, who becomes feverish because of her injuries, while Zell angrily claims that he can't fight with such an immature fighter. He tells Altea that he needs to leave this place because the nerd has a spirit which can track him easily, so late at night, he makes his way through the underground tunnels and grabs his gear before making his way outside, while thinking about how if everything was alright, he could have taught new swordsmen alongside his teacher Glee, and their Dany could have become a great swordsman, since she has a lot of raw talent. His thoughts are broken by the 4 knights who are waiting for him to emerge outside and surround him on all sides. The battle begins, and the 4 knights immediately start attacking him from all sides, not letting him rest even for a moment. but Zell continues to outpace them as he finds gaps between their defense and even manages to land a slash against Elsuria, though only to her armor. One of the knights wonders whether they will be able to take this man down, but the other one reassures him that the battle is as good as over, since the Nirn has finally created a barrier around this area, which will make Zell slow and tired before putting him to sleep. Zell immediately starts feeling the effects as he drops to the floor tired, unable to understand what's happening to his body, while Elsuria slowly walks towards him, claiming that he doesn't need to worry as he won't feel a thing when she chops his head off. She raises her sword and brings it down, but to her surprise, Zell still has enough strength to block her attack with his arms. Suddenly, the barrier around them falls and Zell immediately gets his energy back and dodges her attack before backing off. He looks around only to find an injured Dany walking towards him with a piece of torn talisman which broke the barrier. Dany immediately joins the battle where she is attacked by one of the knights, but she blocks the dagger and stands beside Zell bravely. The battle starts once again as Elsuria attacks Zell, who blocks and dodges her attacks as he realizes that he is still not recovered completely. He looks towards Dany as she might need his help, but to her surprise, Dany seemed to have learned from her mistake and is fighting much more carefully this time. They regroup once again and all seems to be going well when Third to wait till the moon rises, as it will give her the energy that she needs, and once she is rested, she should come and find him as he might need some backup in this fight. Meanwhile, the soldiers start destroying the city with their elephants and burning everything to the ground, while the children and their mothers run in every direction, wondering why a hero who is supposed to be their savior wants to kill them so badly. The city starts imploding as two of the mercenary group inside the city almost end up in a civil war while trying to figure out a way to defeat this army, while Elsuria feels completely helpless as she remembers Dany telling her that the heroes she's trying to defend are actual monsters. The commander and the captain both watch the destruction from above, but the commander is still not satisfied by the level of destruction being caused, so he tells the troops to go door to door at every house and start punishing them for letting a rebel stay inside the city. Elsuria can't believe this as the soldiers start killing innocent men and women all over the city. She tries to help a child and her mother, but is stopped by her party members who claim that there is nothing she could do here. Tears roll down her cheeks as she struggles to get free and save the life of that child, but to her surprise, Zell arrives at the very last moment, slashing the soldier's head off in one swift motion. The other soldier gets so horrified that he falls to the ground in fear, while Zell proclaims that he is the hero killer that they have been looking for. The soldier screams for reinforcement, and soon a platoon of soldiers appear with their leader to take down the hero killer. They all stand in a face-off against Zell, but all of them are too scared to take him on, which pisses their leader off, while Zell mocks them for being scared of him while they were having so much fun killing innocent people who can't fight back. Finally, a couple of soldiers gather their courage and attack him, but Zell has no trouble slicing through them before moving on to the next set of soldiers that he carves through like carving a cake. Some of the soldiers try using their spears as an advantage, but Zell is too quick and closes the distance before slashing them to bits as well. The platoon leader screams at his archers to nail him, but Zell manages to dodge through their arrows and kills them off before going for the platoon leader himself. He kills the platoon leader without any issues and shouts at the civilians to make a run for safety. Meanwhile, Altea manages to stop the civil war between the two mercenary groups since she knew both the leaders and helped smuggle them into the inner city. She manages to unite them, and together with the armed civilians, they decide to fight back against the army of the hero. Back at the battlefront, the captain feels confident about the chances of winning since Zell is only one man against a massive army, and there is no way that he can find a way out of this battle alive. Unfortunately, though, he soon hears about the civilians mounting a counterattack, and his confidence slowly starts disappearing. Led by Altea, the two mercenary groups start breaking through the enemy ranks while the civilians use shields to protect themselves from the arrows. Elsuria and her party notices that Zell alone has basically turned the tides of the battle completely, and he is very close to breaking the spirits of the enemy forces, but they also realize that he is getting tired now. Elsuria makes a tough decision and decides to basically join forces with Zell and orders her party to defend the innocent civilians from the enemy forces. No match against Zell, and decides to flee after ordering the men to continue fighting while he gets some more reinforcement. This obviously didn't go well with the soldiers, who immediately lost the will to fight while Zell picked them apart one by one. The commander realizes that there is only one way to win the fight, and that is to take control of one of the warships created by Glenn, which is hidden in this city. He thinks about how Barristar will give him so many riches if he manages to win this battle for him, but before he could reach the location where the ship was hidden, the ship itself starts floating up in the air while the captain was dangling on a rope from it. The commander realizes that the captain must have gotten caught and has already spilled the beans to Elsuria and her crew. Barrister, on the other hand, doesn't have any clue about this development and thinks that one of his men has already captured Glenn's flagship and is now bringing it to Barristar. This gives him a lot of options, as he can simply turn the entire city to dust and ashes now without any fear of harming the ship. He remembers how his request of creating his own battleship was rejected any explanation, even though Glenn built one for himself without any issue. This really affected Barristar, who started hating Glenn for always behaving as if they are not equal, when in reality both of them are heroes. He remembers the time in the forest when the 7 heroes were huddled around a campfire as they wondered how the 4 heroes would ever manage to come out of his battle alive. Glenn claims that Zell is a guy who has already faced through many such impossible odds, but somehow has managed to come through with victory in all of them with a smile on his face. Suddenly they wonder what will they do if he actually manages to win this impossible battle as well. Landgrave claims that Zell is a good friend and he will probably not tell the king that the remaining heroes were hiding in the forest, but Glenn isn't so sure and claims that they need to be prepared just in case Zell manages to make his way out through this battle as well. While he was going through this crisis, Zell was cutting his men down left and right and making a beeline towards his floating castle. The Mage Riders try to stop him with their magic, but Danny manages to dodge through all of them before Zell cuts through them with his magical swords. Barrister finally notices Zell flying straight towards him and decides to blast him off the sky using his mega cannon, but fortunately for Zell, Barrister's aim is similar to me trying to piss in the pot while drunk. Elsaria realizes that Barrister has totally lost it and asks her party member to arm the battleship, as they are going to try and destroy Barrister's castle from the sky. She apologizes to her crew for dragging them into this situation, as by following her orders, they are going to attack a hero of the country, which is a very big crime, but her crew claims that they will get out of it one way or another, and it's her who would have to face the brunt of the damage since she is a well-known noble. She smiles, claiming that this ruthless tactic will definitely hurt her father's position a little, but her father raised her up to fight against injustice, which is exactly what she is doing. She commands them to arm the cannon immediately, and once everything is ready, she gives the order to fire. Immediately, a giant sword emerges from the battleship, which fires an extremely strong lightning attack, which destroys anyone in its path while also seriously damaging the float keepy. Phase introduces himself as a lowly knight under the command of the hero Glenn and challenges him to a duel. Phase immediately draws his sword out and takes a stance which is very familiar to Zell, surprising him. Before he could react though, Phase tries to strike him down with all his strength, but Zell still has enough stamina to keep up with his speed as he blocks and deflects all the attacks before deciding to go on the offensive. The swords clash repeatedly, and Phase soon realizes that he might have underestimated the hero killer, as Zell starts taking the edge as he forces Phase to go all out. Their battle rages on as Phase gains respect for his opponent, while Zell realizes that Phase must have been trained by the same master that he got training from, and that's why he is able to keep up with him. Phase decides to take it a notch and runs up with an overhand swing, but Zell again manages to deflect his attacks and pushes him back. Phase seems to be having fun as he compliments Zell's strength and endurance, before asking him to reveal his true powers and take out his magical swords from his ass. Before Zell could reply though, Danny arrives and tries to help Zell, but she is forced to maintain a distance because the castle might collapse at any moment. Phase continues to taunt Zell, claiming that he knows about his Black Wing technique, which gives him a bunch of magical swords, and claims that he wants to fight him at full strength. Phase continues that right now he is just a slave who has earned a high position under the hero, but he is a slave nonetheless. Once he brings the head of the infamous hero killer in front of the king, he will get rewarded so handsomely that he could earn his freedom, after which he will probably become a sword instructor as well. With that, he decides to up his pace once again so he could force Zell to use his Black Wing technique, but Zell maintains a calm attitude, defensively blocking every single attack with such precision that Phase realizes that this man might have even surpassed Master Glee in terms of raw skills with the sword. The general looks at the scene with horror as he can see the tragedy unfold in front of him, where the person who was known as the strongest sword in the kingdom is fighting against a young talent who's in line to inherit that same title, but instead of learning from each other, they are trying to destroy each other. Phase screams at Zell to reveal where he learnt swordsmanship, but Zell keeps his mouth shut, forcing Phase to attack again. Zell backs off this time, realizing that this young body that he has transformed into can't really handle more than this. Phase realizes that something is holding Zell back and claims that if he can't fight at full strength, then Phase has no choice but to eliminate him right here, right now. With that proclamation, Phase focuses all his attention at the tip of this sword before bursting into a flurry of attacks too quick for the normal eye to witness. Zell, however, barely manages to track his movements and deflects the attack while being pushed back by every swing. Unfortunately, he can't keep this up forever, and Feast finds an opening which he exploits and lands a strike so swift that Zell fails to react in time. His armor starts breaking off as he falls to his knees. Feast doesn't seem to be very pleased though, as he turns around and claims that what he tried was a very crude imitation of the Black Wing technique, which Zell should have seen coming from a mile away since he supposedly mastered this technique. Zell gets back up on his feet once again